Very, very good evening to all of you. I'm C. Ridhima Bhatia, and this is your second class on the topic profits and gains of business and profession. In the last class, we discussed what actually profit and gains are, what is business, what is profession, what is a charging section, and then we moved on to understanding how the business income is computed and how it is different from the book profits, that is the books which we maintain. Usse kaise the taxable profits is different. And then we moved on to understanding step by step section 30 deduction, section 31 deduction, and section 32 deduction. Um, any doubts up till now? Today's class would be all about completing the line of section 33, 35. Maybe what all deductions are there. 36, if time's allowed, we'll start. Otherwise, we'll pick up in the next class. Yes, today's the section I'll say pretty boring also, but pretty new also there as they are to different industries and different situations. So hope you like it. And sometimes people tend to skip such sections. They directly do 32 and then they jump to section 36, which is other deductions. Beach mein these sections they skip. Having said that, most of the time the question comes from 3, 4 common sections, which are 35 AD, section 35, 35D. But that being said, sometimes if they have to put any case study or a small testing provision, they can come from any of these sections which are in the list of 33 onwards to 35. So those sections nahi hai, there are 33 AB, ABA, 35 CC, ऐसे बहुत सारे, okay? So any doubt from the previous class, and I hope everyone can take thoda sa break from the festive mood and study for next 3, 4 hours. Yeah, Jimmy. Yes.
मैम एक्चुअली आपने जो होमवर्क में केस लॉस दिए थे उसमें जो सेकंड नंबर का केस लॉ था ना,
Mm-hmm.
ये जो मार्जिनल अमाउंट मार्जिनल इनकम जो इन्वेस्ट की गई है वो मार्जिनल इनकम कौन सी है, यानी जो एक्स्ट्रा पड़ा हुआ पैसा वो, यानी वो किससे रिलेटेड है?
Perfect. Any other doubt?
नो मैम, दिस ओनली.
So, क्या होता है टू obtain बैंक गारंटी अपने बैंक गारंटी के ऊपर यू डू lot of trades. This is especially common in case of tenders, in case of import export. ठीक है? So वहां पे you have to keep certain amount of margin money with bank as an assurance money, like a security deposit types. So to understand it in a simple way, it's like a security deposit. So that you have to keep it with the bank. अब the question is कि जो money आपने बैंक के साथ रखा, the margin money, उस पे interest मिला. So now the question of law was whether this interest income or business income or income of other sources. So the court decided, the Delhi court decided that since the margin money pay interest income is received and margin money is kept for what? For bank guarantee. And bank guarantee is for what? For doing the trade, for doing the business. So had there been no bank guarantee, there have been no business. Correct?
Yes.
So ultimately, this margin money is for business only. And that means if you have kept some money for business and if pay you're having interest, that would be treated as a business income.
अच्छा, यानी वो बिजनेस के लिए बैंक में पहले से ही जमा करके रखते हैं.
हाँ, कुछ एक टाइप ऑफ डिपॉजिट पहले से देना पड़ता है फॉर बैंक गारंटी.
ओके मैम.
तभी बैंक आपके नाम पे गारंटी लेता है आगे.
ओके मैम. थैंक यू मैम.
Okay. Any other doubt? Good question. अभी तक सब समझ आ रहा है सबको? Yes, no?
यस मैम.
Perfect. So now let's begin with our first section of the evening, which is section 33AB. One second, let me just open it. So, as I was saying, a lot of people tend to skip sections like 33AB, 33ABA. A boring लगता है. Okay. Second, past trend में less questions have come from it, no doubt on that. B, कॉम्प्लेक्स है. तो let's try to simplify it. Let's try to understand it like a story, and so that it can become easy for us to understand. And I hope that one time listening to this section at least makes an impression on your mind that if in revision you skip such section also, at least you can attempt a question. Okay. So apne aap ko we have to understand us as business. Government has given a lot of deductions in income tax, not specifically PGBP, in income tax, to promote certain businesses, to promote certain expenditure for the welfare of the society. So Abhi, today's classes would be all about those expenditure which are either infrastructure oriented, or are promoting agriculture, or are promoting certain skills, or are for any benefit of the society in general. All such expenditures का list is there from 33AB to 35E technically. Okay, so let's start with tea development account, coffee development account, rubber development account. Now these are the deductions when you make any sort of investment in an account, or I should say any sort of deposit in an account which is maintained with NABARD, or any deposit account opened by the board. All these tea, coffee, and rubber, people have their boards. Tea board is there, coffee board is there, and your rubber board is there. So they make schemes time to time for the welfare of the agriculture, for the welfare of tea, coffee, rubber development. First of all, kisko this section allows as deduction? This section allows a deduction to any SSE who is in the business of growing and manufacturing tea, coffee, or rubber. So basically, you have to do both. You are into the growing also, and you're into the manufacturing also. Suppose I'm growing the tea leaves, but I'm not into processing or manufacturing, then I'm not eligible. Or suppose I'm into processing and manufacturing, but I'm not into growing tea, then I'm not eligible. Okay, so this is how you have to read that. So if you're into growing tea, coffee, rubber, then you're allowed for deduction. Deduction for what? Deduction for setting an amount aside for the purpose of the scheme. So basically, scheme mein kya hota hai? They provide a lot of benefits for the manufacturer and the cultivator, but you have to set an amount aside. They come up with a lot of new fertilizers, new way to improve the production, etc., etc. So all the kharcha for your agriculture produce or for your manufacturing is basically done from that amount which is set aside. So suppose I have 10 lakh ka business income. First of all, remember, if you can relate rule 7A, 7B, ये सब कुछ, उसमें होता था 40% agriculture, 60% business. Do you recall that? No? टी में से एग्रीकल्चरल वाला इतना होगा, बिजनेस वाला इतना होगा. नो? कभी पढ़ा था
Yes,
इन
ma'am.
इंटरमीडिएट लेवल?
Yes, ma'am. Remember.
थोड़ा थोड़ा याद हो रहा होगा. Not exactly rule number,
Yes,
not
ma'am. Yes.
exactly percentage, but there was a chapter or a provision, and this is there in this particular chapter also towards the end, that if you are into manufacturing of tea, coffee, rubber, then either 40% is your business income, then 60% is your agriculture income, or 75-25 का ratio होता था depending upon what type of business you are. और coffee roasting वगैरह में ऐसे 60-40, 70-30 ऐसे चलता था. So if the 30% part is your business income, that is now your business income. Ab us business income, suppose that business income is 10 lakhs. Okay. Now from this 10 lakhs, so first step is to calculate business income. Now from this 10 lakhs, I have to deposit a certain amount. The amount which I deposit is qualifying for deduction. That amount is qualifying for deduction. कितने में से? 10 lakh में से whatever I will deposit. From 10 lakhs, whatever I will deposit, that would qualify for deduction. But people do not just put entire amount in that deposit account. एक अलग से account you have to open with NABARD. Okay, so that's why they've restricted the limit. Either the amount which you deposit or 40% of business income, whichever is lower. That would be your deduction. That would be your deduction. So once you have set aside that amount, that would be a reduction. So now from 10 lakhs, suppose 40%, 4 lakh rupees directly would be deduction under section 33AB. Clear? No other problem in this. Okay. So once that amount is set aside, you have to use it for the purpose of the scheme. That is, either you can use for the cultivation or growing your manufacturing scale, or you can even purchase plant and machinery out of it. Whatever the scheme says, you can do that. If you do anything beyond the scheme, जैसे आपने डिविडेंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर दिया या you did not invest in the purpose of that agriculture, then what makes sense, whatever amount is given to you as deduction would be charged as income. Simple. I am the government, I told you, you set aside this amount. The amount you set aside is your deduction. Now that amount which is set aside in a separate account, you have to use it for a specific purpose. If you will not use for that specific purpose, it would be your income. Simple. Now, specific purpose kya hai, we'll not go into that list that what are the specific purpose. They are there as per this scheme of different thing, and that is not your area of photo. You have to understand that there is some certain specific purpose. For that it has to be utilized. Suppose, let me give you an example. Now, from this 10 lakhs, I set aside 4 lakhs. 4 lakh would be eligible for deduction. Simple. Now, from this 4 lakhs, in future, I use 3 lakhs for purchasing crops or for purchasing that seeds, etc. Now, will 3 lakh again would be allowed to me as a deduction of expenditure for business? Yes, no. 4 lakh जो amount अलग से रखा, उसमें से I again utilize 3 lakhs for the purpose of business, which is as per the scheme. I'm saying the amount is utilized for specified purpose. But the question is, the amount which is utilized for specified purpose, this 3 lakhs, will it be again allowed as deduction? Think. No. Why? Because obviously 4 lakh का amount पे deduction मिल गया. अब उसमें से if I'm using any expenditure or making any expenditure out of it, why it should again be allowed as deduction? It would be a double deduction scenario, right? So if any expenditure is made from the amount which is set aside for the specified purpose and you're using it for specified purpose, then obviously once you're using it again for specified purpose, no deduction would be allowed, because when you were setting aside, that time deduction was allowed. Simple. This is written. Second point you have to remember that, okay, sometimes the amount is allowed to be withdrawn for other than specified purposes. That is when the business is getting closed. अब मैंने amount set aside रखा था, but now the business is getting closed. Now the business is getting closed altogether. So what will happen? Nothing. I can withdraw that amount. I can simply withdraw that amount, or death of assessee happens, or partition of HUF happens, or dissolution of the firm happens, or liquidation of the company. Basically, at the time of closure or the death of the assessee, you would be allowed to withdraw. Then it would not be said that it is not used for specified purposes. Simple. Up, suppose karo, I have taken any plant and machinery from it. I have taken any plant and machinery from it. So remember, I cannot sell the plant and machinery for the purpose of, for the years, 8 years from the end of the financial year. For the 8 years from the end of the financial year in which such plant and machinery was acquired. If you will understand the reason why timelines are there and why avoidances are there, you will understand. Suppose from this 4 lakhs, which I set aside, now I purchase the machinery. I purchase a machinery of 3.5 lakhs. It is for the purpose of utilization. Okay. Now this machinery I cannot sell from the expiry of 8 years from the end of the financial year or end of the previous year in which it was acquired. Suppose I acquire it today, end would be 31st March 25. Usse 8 years, that would be up till 31st March 2033. I cannot transfer my machinery. If I will do it, it would, whatever the amount of deduction was claimed in relation to the cost of the machinery would be as treated as deemed income. सिंपल सा रीजन है. ऐसा क्यों किया कि लोग पैसे सेट असाइड करके मशीनरी लेके बेचे ना. That people don't set aside the amount and then purchase a machinery and then sell it and then make money of it. So to curb that practices, this 8-year time limit is there. Also, you are now the CA final student, so you should be very, very careful in understanding if the act is writing 8 years from the end of the previous year, 8 years from the acquisition year. So please, please make note of it, highlight it clearly that if it is from the end or if it is from the acquisition, because aage there is one place where it's written from acquisition. But if you're giving that machinery to government or it is because of succession of the firm or anything such as such, then it is allowed. Then it is allowed. Also, if you're claiming deduction under this, the audit is mandatory. Audit is mandatory. Audit under the Income Tax Act or audit under any other law is mandatory. You have to file Form 3AC before the return filing date, वो जो audit का date होता है. Otherwise, 31st October से 1 month पहले, 30th September. Then in that case, you will be then only you will be allowed as deduction. Sorted? Simple? अब इसको एक story की तरह याद किया तो it is easy. Who is allowed as deduction under section 33AB? The tea manufacturer and producer and manufacturer. Similarly, coffee producer and manufacturer and rubber producer and manufacturer. For what deduction is allowed? For the business income ka 40% or the amount they deposit in that account, whichever is lower. From that account, the scheme, the purpose is that you should use the money only for the specified purpose. If you use it for non-specified purpose, deemed income. You can withdraw the money in case of closure of business, in case of liquidation, dissolution, partition of HUF, or death of assessee. Audit is mandatory. If you're investing in any plant and machinery from that and you sell that plant and machinery before 8 years from the end of the year in which it was acquired, deemed income of the deduction. And one more point, which was the audit is done. Yeah. Once you have set aside the amount, now when you're making actual expenditure from it, double deduction again would not be allowed. Simple. Any doubt in section 33AB? Please give a look to it. And when we say investing in plant and machinery, friends, investing in plant and machinery is basically for the purpose of that manufacturing. You cannot invest in any plant and machinery and put it in your office or make any office appliance. Computers are allowed, but you cannot make any machinery जिस पे already deduction आपने claim कर लिया है, उन सबका deduction would not be allowed. Something which is actually being used for the purpose of that manufacturing, that would be allowed. All points covered, just go through it once. Quickly give a nod, yes, no. Poonam, Mamta, Ankita, Happy Singh.
मैम बॉस पोर्टल पे मैसेजेस नहीं आ रहे हैं.
अरे जिन्हें आपका मिल गया मुझे.
थैंक यू मैम.
Others, if you're putting up your queries in the boss portal, just confirm if I'm not taking it. Sometimes there becomes a glitch. चले आगे, sure. Okay, so now we proceed to our next section, which is yours. Exactly similar on the same line, just instead of the tea, coffee, rubber wala thing, now it is the petroleum manufacturer or extractor. So this deduction exactly similar is allowed for someone who is into the business of prospecting, extraction, or production of petroleum, natural gas, or both in India. But यहाँ पे one thing is important, that they are doing this business in agreement with the central government. In agreement with the central government. Second thing, same, यहाँ पे भी exactly same है, that out of the business income, you set aside an amount. So either the amount which you set aside, amount which you deposit, or 20%. So यहाँ पे maximum deduction is 20% of the business profits. अब ये business profits कौन से, which you are computing as per the PGBP, not the book profits. ठीक है, whichever is lower would be allowed as deduction. Another difference between section 33AB and 33ABA is AB में it's all about agriculture. So you open an account with NABARD. यहाँ पे you have to deposit that money with an account maintained with SBI or any deposit amount as per the site restoration account opened by the ministry. ठीक है, वहां पे it is NABARD का स्पेशल अकाउंट, यहाँ पे SBI का सिंपल. वहां पे द लिमिट इज 40%, यहाँ पे लिमिट इज 20%. Rest, all things, friends, are same. All things matlab same. You have to utilize the amount only for the specified purpose. You cannot transfer the machine within the ATS purpose. If you utilize it for the specified purpose and when you're actually utilizing it, you will not get the deduction again. If you utilize it for other than specified purpose, it would be treated as deemed income. It would be treated as deemed income. Also, you cannot invest in any plant and machinery which is utilized in the office premises or is an office appliance except computer or any plant and machinery on which 100% deduction is allowed. Audit and maintenance of books is mandatory. You can withdraw the amount on closure of business, that would not be taxable. Rest all things are same. बहुत कम क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, बट अगेन एक बार सुन लिया, समझ लिया, यू कैन बी एबल टू अटेम्प्ट इट. इवन अंडरस्टैंडिंग द 20% वाला थिंग, इट वुड बी more than clear. Site restoration fund and tea coffee rubber development clear? Guys, थोड़ा सा रिप्लाई कर दो yes no का on that portal. Poonam, yes, now I'm getting a message, but I'm only getting ma'am, you're getting messages, no other message. Easy है. अब जब पढ़ोगे ना, when you will be reading it, you will be feeling like, okay, this is the simplest thing. Just because it's a lot of text, people tend to ignore it. Maximum problem in income tax seen people is that they are afraid of reading the law language. But if you read the language and if you read your modules, they have subparted it, they have highlighted, there is heading for most of the paragraphs, and read it as a story, it becomes easy. Yes.
Ma'am, can you please explain in section 33 AB.3?
33 AB or ABA?
AB, ma'am, the first one.
AB.
The 33 AB, ma'am, and the third point, no reduction to partner.
Point number
3, ma'am, 3.
Okay. So suppose the firm is into the business of tea, coffee, rubber development, or AOP is into the business. So the firm has claimed the deduction, then partners cannot claim the same deduction in their return. Simply saying, ultimately it might be going from, the money is going from the business account, right? So suppose, let me just say it like that. So suppose the firm has already claimed 40% of the business profit as deduction, right? And technically the firm should be allowed because it is the one who is doing that business of growing and manufacturing tea, coffee, rubber, etc. Now, when partners are showing business income, also they have to show business income, कौन सा business income होता है, salary, interest, remuneration, etc. They will not claim 40% again. That is not allowed. So that is a bit clarity, and that is here in the 33 AB part also and 33 ABA also. Clear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other doubt, friends? आगे बढ़े? Okay. Sat, how would you remember it on a blank page? Just write the sections and the sections heading and go through it every day. Ask your friends, ask your family members, give them and do it similarly, something you used to do in your 11th standard, 10th standard or 8th standard. Ask them to ask your sections. Tabhi you would be able to recall those sections. Write the correct sections, never write the wrong sections in exam, okay? Now we move ahead to another important section. Now, if you were sleeping, Kapita, everyone focus on the screen. Expenditure on scientific research. Couple of years back, there were a lot of things you had to remember here. But now they have made this section pretty simplified, easy, and अच्छा यहाँ पे इतना सारा let me see. And the deduction has also been simplified. Earlier, if you have read it or maybe in your intermediate level, there were different amount of deduction, different percentage of deduction. Now, let's understand what this section is. This section is when you are making any expenditure on scientific research. When you as a business is making a deduction, is making a expenditure under scientific research. Two type of expenditure can happen. Either I am doing anything on in-house research, or I am giving a donation sort of for scientific research. I am not doing it. I am giving the amount to someone, some other business who is doing scientific research, and I'm just giving the contribution to it. Okay. Now deduction is allowed in both the scenario. Even if in this scenario it is not related to your business, but if the if the contribution is going for a scientific research to an approved authority or to an approved institute, you will get the deduction here. Okay. Interestingly, this is a very interesting part here. Now coming back to first in-house. In-house matlab my business is of some item or some manufacturing or something, and scientific research is a part of it. Scientific research is a part of it. You can take in your mind any medicine industry, any medicine manufacturer, any car manufacturer, any skincare product manufacturer who have a regular research and development going on, scientific research and development going on. Maybe a biotech company you can think in mind, anything which you want to keep in mind. So now your business is of scientific research. Okay. One thing, either before commencement of business, you must be spending a lot of money on scientific research. Abhi business shuru hua nahi. Before commencement, you must have spent a lot of money in the research, right? Or during the business, you're spending money on research. During the business, so it's very simple. Whatever revenue expenditure is there, you are otherwise also allowed. You are otherwise also allowed the kharcha of revenue expenditure. So revenue expenditure so anyway is allowed. What is the additional benefit is that 100% allowed. That here capital expenditure is also allowed during the business. Capital expenditure is also allowed, that to 100%. So suppose for scientific research, I needed a plant and machinery. I purchased a plant and machinery that would be allowed as 100% reduction under section 35. Under section 35, that would be allowed as 100% deduction. Similarly, इसको हम लिख देते हैं section 35(1)(4). Capital expenditure का 100% reduction. But remember, land not included. Land pay, you will not be given a deduction. Except land, building banaya, you would be allowed a deduction. You will say, ma'am, we purchased a place where building and land both the price we had to give. So then proportionate it accordingly as per the fair market value going on. Then you can claim the deduction. Okay. Second thing, what about expenditure which has happened before? What about expenditure which has happened before? First of all, you will get the deduction in the year when you commence the business. The business hua hai nahi, how can you claim the deduction, right? So in the first year of the commencement, you will get the deduction. Ab isme bhi same question hai, whether revenue or capital, only revenue expenditure would be allowed. Only revenue expenditure would be allowed, and that too only salary and raw materials, no other expenditure. Marketing वगैरह तो सेंस ही नहीं बनता. Ultimately क्या हो रहा होगा? You would be either investing in the raw material, or you would be either paying the salary to the researchers and developers, right? So only to them this particular whatever kharcha you have made for them, that would be allowed, and that to maximum 3 years before the commencement. ऐसा नहीं है कि 10 साल से रिसर्च चल रहा है, 10 years से research is going on and on and on, and now 11th year when I start the business I'm claiming all the deductions. नहीं, 3 years before the commencement. to commencement, you will be allowed as deduction. अब question क्या होगा? Question में this information, if it's a full-fledged 16-mark question, this information would be given to you in adjustment. You have to apply your brain. All expenditures would be given to you. You have to apply कि 3 years का. You have to pick up the kharcha. You have to pick only salary and raw material and give a special deduction under section 35 while computing taxable profits. Number one. Number two, this information during the year wala, this information can be given to you revenue expenditure in that P&L account only, which is given to you in question. Capital expenditure can be given to you in question also or in adjustment also. You have to be careful. If capital expenditure is already reduced, you will not make an adjustment. If capital expenditure is not reduced, you will make a adjustment but remove the land value from it. This is how a question will come and this is how you have to remember small points. Okay? Clear? Anyone has any doubt in the in-house research part?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, during the business, capital expenditure have done in the current year. Then what expenses we have reduced? I couldn't understand.
Sorry. May I know who is speaking first?
Mamta.
Okay, yeah, ma'am. Please, so you're saying during the year the expenditure is being incurred? Mamta, you are on mute. Yeah, now speak.
Ma'am, during the business, I am talking about capital expenditure. We have made in current year. Total expenses have to be deducted, no?
Correct. Total expenses have to be deducted.
Okay.
Expenditure incurred on the capital part during the year. So generally, while you are maintaining your books from the accounts perspective, you must have reduced the revenue expenditure, right? Now, as per section 35, apart from revenue, capital expenditures are also allowed. So when you are calculating book profits, say, taxable profits, revenue expenditure are already considered. What is not considered? Capital expenditure. So you will give the extra deduction for it. Okay, Mamta?
Okay.
Clear? We'll do the question also, don't worry. Ankita, any doubt? Poonam? Sabko clear? Chalo. So this is the in-house part. You want to make a chart out of this? You can make a chart out of this. Technically, there is one part which might be you must be thinking from Mamta's question also in general, that when capital expenditure is allowed, naturally it will happen that there would be a lot of higher losses in the years when capital expenditure is claimed, right? Because profits are for the revenue part. Now you are claiming reduction on the capital expenditure also. So any unabsorbed capital expenditure, please note this point, important. Any unabsorbed capital expenditure that is carry forward for indefinite period. I'm talking about only unabsorbed capital expenditure, not the revenue expenditure. Unabsorbed capital expenditure that is carry forward indefinite for the indefinite period, and you can adjust it with any of your heads of income except salary. It's something similar to unabsorbed depreciation. This unabsorbed capital expenditure is carry forwarded for indefinite period, because if they would have restricted the time limit for set off of such losses, then it would not have made sense. Why you're giving the deduction, income tax wali, why you're giving the deduction when you're restricting the time limit for carry forwarding those losses. Okay? So that's why unabsorbed capital expenditure can be carry forwarded for indefinite period and can be adjusted accordingly. But obviously, first, always the intent is to set off the current year losses, current year depreciation, then current year brought forwarded losses, then unabsorbed depreciation, and then unabsorbed capital expenditure. Now, from the depreciation, another point comes into picture is that if you have claimed 100% deduction of this particular type of item, will you now claim depreciation? No. Depreciation क्या है? Depreciation is a way in which you are claiming the cost of the asset in the years for which it is used, right? Over the period of time, correct? But now if I've claimed 100% reduction of the cost as capital expenditure from my profit, will I claim depreciation again on such asset? No, I will not claim depreciation on such asset. Now you can relate to explanation in section 43, where it was said that if you're using any asset for scientific research and now you're using it for normal business, the value would be considered as nil. If you can relate it, we did it in the previous class. The reason was because capital expenditure 100% has been received on it. Now again, it does not make sense to claim the expenditure or to claim the cost in your WDV. Relating is very important. I think you people are getting, if you're not replying, I'm assuming that it is clear. Next, now let's move on to the list of expenditure made to outer people. Expenditure made to people outside your business. Basically, you're making a contribution or a donation. A question may again, it would not be written that you have to claim section 35. Extra information can be given, or information as part of P&L can be given. Anything can be given. If it's a part of P&L, you will not make any adjustment. If it is not part of P&L, you will make adjustment. Question में confusing के लिए it can be written to you that paid to so and so Indian company for scientific research not related to business. Does not matter. Section 35 does not say that when you are making donation for scientific research, you have to make it in relation to your business. No. Okay. So now let's start with it. First of all, which all are allowed? Payment to an approved Indian company for scientific research, payment to any notified approved university, college, research association, institution for social science or statistical research, scientific research भी है, statistical research भी है, social science भी है. ठीक है? Payment to any notified approved university, college, other institution for scientific research. So either you're making to them for statistical, you're making to them for scientific, you would be allowed. Or payment to any national laboratory, university, IIT, or specified person for scientific research under the approved program. Approved Indian company, approved laboratory, IIT, specified person for scientific research, or approved universities, institution, research association for scientific, statistical, and your social science research. 3 items एक तरीके से. Go through it quickly. ठीक है? So कितना deduction is allowed? Whatever the contribution you are making. पहले it was 120, earlier 150, etc. But now it's 100%. So whatever donation you're making, 100% would be allowed. Go through the list. याद कैसे करोगे? Simple. National Laboratory question में आया, section 35. IIT question में comes, section 35. A word like scientific research, statistical research, social science comes, section 35. Look for the word approved also together with it. University, college, or approved Indian company. Now, case law can come, or a case study can come, or a case scenario can come. How? A case scenario come like X Limited paid, ध्यान से listen. Okay, X Limited paid 100 lakhs, 1 crore rupees as donation for scientific research to an approved Indian company on 10th of July. On 15th of August, the status of the approved Indian company was withdrawn by the authorities. Whether X Limited is qualified to claim the deduction on scientific research? Ultimately, the question is simple, that if after making the donation, the approved status is withdrawn or the notified status is withdrawn by the authorities for the donee, जिसको आप donation कर रहे हो, उनका ये approved वाला part ना is हट गया. So, whether the deduction would be allowed, yes or no? What do you think? Whether it would be allowed or not? Participate students, whether it would be allowed or not?
Allowed, ma'am.
Correct. It would be allowed. Technically, yes. So that is the question. So before donation or at the time of donation, if it is an approved one, it would be allowed. It is immaterial that after the donation, the status of the donee changes. It is not your mistake, right? It is not your mistake. You would be allowed as deduction. So this can be a third question which can come from it. All this type of question and all this type of scenario of in-house also discussed and scientific research contribution also discussed. Now there's one more section which I don't think so in today's time hold a good. A separate section was introduced under for 35 2AB section, 35 subsection 2AB. Okay. Now this section basically is for the company who are into the business of biotechnology for production of certain articles. Okay, this particular section was introduced specifically for companies who are into the business of biotechnology. So एक common section था section 35(1)(1) and 35(1)(4) where you were getting deduction for scientific research, in-house scientific research. This another section was introduced for in-house scientific research only for biotechnical companies, only for biotechnology companies. Now, this section also allows 100% reduction of expenditure, revenue or capital, except land and building. And 35(1) also allows 35(1)(4) and 35(1)(1) allows deduction for capital expenditure also and revenue expenditure also. So there is no difference in 35 2AB and 35(1) and 35 subsection 1 clause 4 or 35 subsection 1 clause 1. वहां पे भी revenue capital है, यहाँ पे भी revenue capital है. Rather, that is more better because capital expenditure में there building is allowed, here building is not allowed. So earlier the limit of this 100% was 200% and 150%. But since now it is 100% only, so you either claim 35 2AB as a biotech company or 35 subsection 1 may, whichever way you take it, it is one and the same thing. It is one and the same thing, right? So you don't have to remember 35 2AB specifically, even if you remember the capital expenditure wala section for in-house research. That is more than enough. That is more than enough. The relevancy is a bit reduced for this particular section. Go through it once, quickly scientific research, and then we'll come to a question of scientific research, which will give you a confidence. Go through it. कहीं पे scientific research पे doubt आता है. Let's discuss. One point is left that I'm telling you. So all the in-house wala part, in-house scientific research wala deductions are allowed to all assessees irrespective of the scheme they follow. But the donations wala is only allowed to assessees if they're as per the old provisions. If they're following the new provisions of alternate schemes, that would not be allowed. That would not be allowed. Last point there. So you have to very carefully write in the question if you're claiming the deduction that the donations which are made to outsiders would only be allowed in the case of old provisions assessee, if they're following the taxes as per old provisions. Now we come to an illustration number 5. Here we have been given a question for A Limited and the kharcha done by A Limited during the previous year 24-25. You have to compute the deductions allowable under section 35. It's not written 35 subsection 1, 2, so on. So you have to compute the 100% deduction. And clearly it's written that alternate regime or the special tax regime is not followed. If it is not written in the question, write it clearly. So what you have been given? Amount paid to notified approved IIT of IIT there. Program is approved, all correct. 2,50,000 would be allowed. Then amount paid to X Limited, a company registered in India, which has its main object of scientific research and development as approved by the authority. Again, approved company, approved Indian company, 4 lakhs allowed. Now, this question would have been amount paid to a foreign company. Will you claim a deduction? No. Indian company only Indian company. So this is all to the outsiders. So 1 lakh, 2 lakh 50, 4 lakhs completely allowed. Next, in-house research के लिए revenue expenditure scientific research का 3 lakhs completely allowed. Capital expenditure including cost of acquisition of land 5 lakhs on scientific research. कितना मिलेगा इसमें से out of 750? Only 250. So 550 total for in-house research and 750 for outside. Total 13 lakhs reduction under section 35. Easy. Definitely easy, right? Break this section as in-house and outside. And in-house में points before commencement, after commencement. And outside में you just remember approved word आ गया, scientific word आ गया, statistical word is there, institute is there. Automatically you can learn it. अच्छा, the screen wasn't visible. अब is it visible? या जिनी?
मैम बस एक रिक्वेस्ट था, क्या हम अशोक जी को रिक्वेस्ट नहीं कर सकते कि जूम चैट को इनेबल कर दें?
I'll ask because protocol थोड़ा change हुआ है. I'll ask the team during the break if they can do it. Question नहीं पहुंच रहा. अभी तक मेरे को लास्ट क्वेरी आपका मिला है 648 का यस वाला, ठीक है, एंड उससे पहले 250. Don't worry, I'm refreshing that page again and again, so I am here. Don't worry about that. Ajit J is there. Okay, maybe I'll talk to them later. Ankita, there, sorry, ma'am. Ankita, Jeannie, Mamta sorted.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Section 35 clear? Very important section this is. A question adjustment definitely comes from this. Next, we proceed to section 35AB and 35AB. Both of them are similar. One is for spectrum and one is for license fee. I'll explain one go में सारा, and then we come to questions, and then अगर कोई और doubt होगा तो we'll take up that. Okay. बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है, एंड देन विल टेक अ ब्रेक. बहुत वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. अगेन पीपल स्किप थिंकिंग कि इतना सब क्या लिखा है, टेक्निकल क्या लिखा है. सिंपल लैंग्वेज में लर्न करेंगे, वेरी इजी. वो हम ऐसे समझें. Now, this particular section, all the list which we are doing today is specifically for certain type of business or for certain type of expenditure, not business expenditure in general. मतलब ये common नहीं है. Essentially, like you and me are not into business of site restoration or telecom, etc. But these are specific industry reductions. ठीक है? Now let's move on to another section, which is section 35 ABA or 35 ABB. Now this section says एक फी होता है. If you are a telecom company, you have to pay the fee to the ministry for obtaining the spectrum. Right now, the auctions are not there, but earlier, few years back, when 5G auctions were going, spectrum is a bandwidth fees which you pay to obtain the operational license. And ये generally telecom companies like Vodafone Idea, same V, Airtel, BSNL, Jio, they pay to the authority to get the license or get the spectrum. Okay. Now this fees generally runs in lakhs or not lakhs, thousands crore actually, to be very honest. Now, how this fee has to be taken? Is this a capital expenditure? Is this a revenue expenditure? So government has come up with a particular, the income tax authorities have come up with a particular section, which is 35 ABA and ABB, is a way that how do you have to write off this expenditure obtained for or paid for the spectrum or the license fee. So this particular section deal with writing off the expenditure for the license fee, for the telecom fee. Simple sahib, the payment is done by the authorities. Okay. Now it is either has to be allowed only on actual payment when the actual payment happens, or I should write it like this, sorry. इसको थोड़ा सा change करते हैं. So we like it, right? That this fee is for specified period, right? This fee is for specified period. Now, hence, it should be written off during that specified period in equal installment. This fees for specified period and technically it should be written off for specified period in equal installments. So suppose this fees period is for 10 years, then 10 every year, 1/10 of the amount should be written off. That written off means claimed as expenditure. Claim as expenditure. Now, when does this writing off starts? This writing off starts from the year when you make the actual payment. When you make the actual payment or commencement of business, whichever is later. Make sense? इसमें later वाली बात make sense. अगर मैंने payment आज कर दिया, but the business starts next year, so I will be able to claim the deduction from next year only, right? So the year starts from the date of actual payment or commencement, whichever is later. And ends till the date of spectrum license. Spectrum का जब license end होता है या जब telecom license end होता है, spectrum fee का period when ends or license fee का period ends, till that day. How many years are there? Basis those years you will write it off. Now those years means how many financial years are falling in between. Basis on that you will write off. Suppose this is 10 years and you have paid 100 crores, then every year you will write off 10 crore. Simple. So if suppose the time period is 9 years, 9 financial years are coming in between, 9 previous years are coming in between, or say 8 periods are coming in between, usi ke according 100 by 8 or 100 by 9 you will claim as deduction every year. Under which section? Under section 35 ABA or 35 BB. 35 AB. ABA is for the right for spectrum and ABB is the license fee. Whichever term is there, it is exactly same. Now the question comes, suppose my business commenced on 8th January 2022. I paid the fees for 10 years from 4th April or 4th April 2023, and the license ends on 4th April 2033. So how many financial years are coming in between? Do not hurry up. एक करके लिखना 23, 24, 24, 25 and so on till 33, 34. So ये 11 years बन रहे हैं, right? So ऐसे count करके then divide that fees by the amount. So 100 divided by 11, that would be allowed as deduction every year. Sorted. Now, second thing which you have to remember here is a question can come a bit confusing in a way. Second important point. Suppose, abhi tak I was telling you that you are making an upfront 100% payment. That is the lump sum payment. Now, suppose I have not made the lump sum payment. I am making payment in parts. That is, the fee is 100 crores. The fee is 100 crores for 10 years. That is right. But as per the contract, listen carefully. A tricky question can come like this. As per the contract, I have to pay 20 crore each for 5 years. I have to pay the amount basically. The question is the amount is not lump sum. The fee is paid in. Wait a second. The fee is paid in installments. Not lump sum, the fee is paid in installments. अब technically 100 simple question होता तो आप बोलते 100 crore divided by 10 crore each year. Now the question actually is he's not making 100 crore upfront payment. The SSE is making 20 crore each. Then what do you think how the payment should be allowed as a deduction? How this 20 whether 20 crore 5 years के लिए? Then what happened about the remaining 5 years the license is operative? Question समझ आया? The question is that instead of lump sum payment, the assessee is making payment of the license fee in installment for 5 years. Though the license is for 10 years, but the installment has to be paid, the entire fee has to be paid in 5 installments. How would one claim the reduction? Apply. थोड़ा सा कोशिश. I have not received any reply on viewers portal. If you're filling in the replies, you can unmute and discuss also, no problem. Question समझ आया? Okay. So how the reduction has to be claimed? The reduction has to be claimed in the same manner as it would have been claimed had full lump sum payment would have been done. That means 10 crore each year. So even if he's making 20 crores ka actual payment, still 10 crore each year would be allowed as deduction from first year of payment. Still 10 crore would be allowed as deduction from first year payment. That means even if the installments are done, the deduction would be allowed in the manner had 100% payment would have been done as lump sum. Same basis pay, the deduction would be allowed. Clear? Many people debated that right to use an asset is a intangible asset, and technically, if it's an intangible asset, then 25% depreciation would be claimed every year. But here, if you are claiming that right as a eligible expenditure deduction under section 35AB, then 35ABA, then you will not claim 25% depreciation. You are amortizing the expenditure over the year, then depreciation question does not come into picture. ठीक है? एक time पे you're amortizing the expenditure, एक time पे you're claiming that right as an intangible asset and claiming 25% depreciation. No. One thing, one time. Now, next critical part here. अभी तक किसी को कोई doubt? I want a reply. I will not move ahead. Next critical part here which comes is the transfer of license. That is very, 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 very important. A question can come on transfer of license. Yeah, Ji.
मैम एक्चुअली यानी कोई डाउट नहीं है, बट आपने जब वो क्वेश्चन पूछा था तो लिटिल बिट कंफ्यूज हो गए थे, इसीलिए कुछ आंसर नहीं दे पाए
नो
तुरंत।
वरीज, बट अभी क्वेश्चन और आंसर दोनों समझ आया?
यस मैम।
परफेक्ट.
थैंक यू।
Anyone else? Thank you, Ginny. Anyone else who did not understand the answer or the question of this part? If lump sum payment is not done, installment payment is done. Okay. Now we'll proceed and understand that what happens in case the transfer of license happens. This is a typical scenario, transfer of license. In case the transfer of license happens, what will happen? अब suppose करो I had this situation, 100 crore का लाइसेंस है, ठीक है, 10 years का लाइफ है, राइट? 10 years का लाइफ है, 100 crore का लाइसेंस है. सिंपल सिचुएशन लेते हैं, लम सम पेमेंट हैज बीन मेड. Lump sum payment has been made. Now, what will happen? Either you can transfer the, but अब 2 years के बाद, after claiming deduction for 2 years, I transfer my license. 2 years में कितना डिडक्शन मैंने क्लेम किया होगा? 10 crore every year, like year 1 में 10 crore, year 2 में amortization expenditure of 10 crore. Yes. How much is the unamortized part after 2 years? Unamortized कितना बचा? How much is unamortized? 80 crore. Exactly. 10 crore 1 year write-off, 10 crore another year amortized. Now this 80 crore, a situation can happen. You can either sell your license at a value of less than, at a value of say 70 crore, case 1. Okay, let's make it 78 crore. Or, okay, case 2, you can sell this license at a value of say 85 crore. Or case 3, the demand of that license was very much. You can sell that license at 105 crore. 105 crore क्यों लिखा? How is case 2 and case 3 different? दोनों 80 crore से ऊपर है, but in this case, this is more than the unamortized amount and this is more than even the original cost. ठीक है? Most probably these three situations are only there. Either you are selling it at a less than unamortized amount or at a amount, यानी 80 crore अभी बच रहा है उसका लाइसेंस फी का to claim, right? To claim as expenditure. Either you can sell it at a lower value or yes, even you can sell it at an equal value also of 80 crores. That is another fourth scenario. Or you can sell at a value more than the unamortized amount but less than the cost. Or you can sell it, which is case 3, at a value more than the actual cost. So इस केस में तो सबसे पहले अनअमोर्टाइज 80 करोड़ था, आपने बेचा 78 करोड़ का. So this 2 crore technically would be allowed to you. अब इसको आप लॉस कहोगे एक तरीके से, राइट? अगर आप नॉर्मल लैंग्वेज में समझो कि 80 की चीज 78 में बेचती, राइट? But you will not call it as loss, you will call it as a deduction which would be allowed to be claimed. So this is the amount of deduction which I will claim under section 33 ABA. So 35 ABA, my bad. ठीक है, 2 crore. Simple. 80 का 78 में बेचा, 2 crore amount of deduction in the year sale. In the year of sale. अब लाइसेंस तो चला गया, अब तो बस there is no point left. ठीक है. अब केस 2, 80 का थिंग you sold for 85. 80 का थिंग you sold for 85. So this 5 crore is your business income. Why business income? Because those 10 crores जो आपने deduction claim किया, in a way 5 crore additional मिल गया, right? So that 5 crore becomes your business income. Technically, if you're selling it at 105 crore, that means 100 crore से extra 105. ये 80 अनअमोर्टाइज्ड वैल्यू है, ध्यान से समझना, ठीक है? सिंपल मैनर में, लॉ में लैंग्वेज जो लिखा हुआ है उससे कंफ्यूज ना होकर ये समझना, ठीक है? 80 100, 105. Or technically, you will say, ki, ma'am, there's a profit of 25 crores. Right? But this 25 crore may, I'll say, friends, 20 crore is business profit and 5 crore is capital gain. अब you say, why so? बहुत simple सा, easy सा logic है. Why 5 crore is capital gain and why not 25 crore? Because out of this 100 crore, 20 crore have been claimed as deduction from the business profits, right? From the business profits. तो जितना maximum amount आपको deduction मिला है, उतना ही you will treat it as business income. You cannot treat 25 crore पूरा as business income. Only thing which you have reduced from P&L, maximum that amount only you can claim it as income, right? More than that, why should I claim it as income? जितना मुझे P&L से profit मिला, deduction मिला है, उतना ही reverse back as profit कर सकते हो. If I claim deduction of only 10 crore, why should I show the gain of 30 crores when actually deduction from profit were only of 10 crore, right? So whatever is claimed as deduction from the P&L, to that extent, I'm claiming it as, I'm showing it as business income. Over and above the cost, if I'm receiving anything, technically is a capital profit. If I'm receiving anything over and above the cost, that is technically is a capital profit. So that's why 5 crore goes under capital gain and 20 crore goes under business income. जितना P&L से माइनस हुआ वो बिजनेस इनकम, जितना P&L के एक्सेस में मतलब कॉस्ट से ज्यादा मिला कैपिटल गेन इनकम. Clear? This is a very, very important point. Now, based on that, if it is clear, let's quickly jump to illustration number 6, part 1. Part 2 पे अभी I am not jumping. Illustration 6, part 1. First, just if I'll come to the screen, if you want to note this as an example, you can make a note of this example. You can take a screenshot, whatever way you want to write. You can take a screenshot and then you can write it down when you're making your self notes. Or you want to note it, I'll give you 1 minute. You want to go through it again, I'll give you 1 minute and then we'll come to the question. 1 second. Meanwhile, please note it. Okay. So now let's come to the question on the screen. We'll not see the answer. We'll typically just do the question and let's see how much our understanding is correct. Illustration 6 on the screen, everyone. X Limited providing the telecommunication services acquired a telecom license at a cost of 50 lakhs on 1st April 2022 for a period of 10 years. Assuming the telecom license is transferred by X Limited in previous year 24-25, say for 32 lakhs or 43 lakhs or 52 lakhs, and whole of the license is transferred, how the transfer shall be dealt with under the Income Tax Act 1961. If any amount is deductible, what would it be for assessment year 25-26? First part only focusing, point number 1. 50 lakhs है, right? Previous year 22-23 में deduction मिला होगा. Previous year 23-24 में deduction would have been claimed. How much? 50 lakhs divided by 10, 5 lakhs 1 year, 5 lakhs another year. 40 lakhs is the unamortized amount. Sorted? Yes. Now, if you have sold it for 32, what would happen? 40 का अभी उसका value बचता था, but आपने 32 में बेच दिया. The 40 value was unamortized, means that there was still value of it. You have sold it for 32. Then 8 lakhs is the basic deduction which you are claiming from the business expenditure. under section 35 AB. This is license fee. So under section 35 ABB. Unammortized value 40 ka tha, you sold it for 43, then 3 lakhs would be allowed as, would be considered as business income. Simple. Unammortized was 40, but you are selling it for 52. So up to the amount which is claimed as deduction till date, that is 10 lakhs, that is till the cost would be business income. Over and above the cost, if any profit is made, capital gain income. So from this 52, 10 would be your business income and 2 lakhs would be your capital gain income. Yes? No?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. अब फटाफट आंसर देख लो. This is what it is written. पेपर में उसको आपने लिखना वैसे जैसे बुक में है, but this is the technical part. If I would have read that technical language first, you would have got confused. You would have not understood the logic. Everyone go ahead, please. At max, give a reaction on Zoom so that I can understand कि समझ आया है. Perfect, Mamta. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, next part है simple. Next part is exactly simple. बस वहां पे एक variation है. If the part of the license is transferred, if is transferred, that means है यही, all figures remain same, but you've not given the entire license, you've given maybe a part of it. Then it is immaterial how much part is transferred or how much part is not transferred. Answer to part A only would change, that is the deduction wala part. B and C would remain same. Matlab, if the part is still left, that means you have still life in your hands for that particular license. That means if you still have life for that particular license, then whatever the loss is coming, that you will claim in next remaining years. For example, in case A, we had unamortized value for 40. We sold it for 32. 8 lakhs the value, which is yet to be amortized in a manner. Instead of claiming pura ka pura in one go, in case of 4 license, here we will do what? 8 lakhs bache, right? 8 lakhs is left, 8 lakhs. And how many years are left? 8 years. So every year, 1 lakh would be claimed. Every year, 1 lakh would be claimed. This is only when you are selling a part license and you're selling it at a lower value than the unamortized value. Otherwise, both other parts remains the same. Yeah, Jenny.
Ma'am, it means the difference which is 40 minus 32, that 8 lakh we will amortized for 4 year, equally?
Yeah, for the remaining years equally.
Okay.
In case of part license.
Okay, ma'am.
When full license you are given, so every part which is left, pura ka pura you will claim this year.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay? Noted? Sorted? Poonam, yes, no? So this is all about telecom license. अब इसको यहाँ से पढ़ने के बाद वापस you will read, it would be easy. अच्छा, suppose करो amalgamation हो गया. Suppose Vodafone Idea were going for the amalgamation, right? Now who will claim the expense, unamortized expense? The new entity, the amalgamating one or the resulting one, whichsoever is the new entity, they will claim the expenditure going forward. They will claim the expenditure going forward. So technically, अगर मैं ये सब पढ़ती, then you would have got confused and it would have been boring. I hope अभी समझ आया, everyone got to know कि what the difference is. Acha, one thing which you might not get clear is this part. Consequences of failure to comply with the conditions after the grant of deduction. This is a section where the deduction was allowed to you, okay? The deduction was allowed to you. You have not sold it. You have not made a transfer of it. Now the license is withdrawn. The license is withdrawn. Ab us case mein what will happen? The AO, if the license is withdrawn, AO will make the necessary adjustment. This is written. And maximum 4 years say this adjustment can be made, rectification has been made. Now, what does this section actually mean? Let's understand with my example. You can then note it. 100 crores ka license fee was there, right? 10 crore each year was allowed. It was for 10 years period, right? I told you that 100 crore ka license fee was to be paid in 5 installments. That is 20 crore each year. But I told you that installment does not change the deduction I have to claim. Deduction allowed, which would be 10 crore each year, right? So 10 crore year 1, year 2. Now, this person, this limited, suppose X limited, what they did, they paid 2 installments correctly. That means 40 crores they paid. But third installment mein they did default, and then after repetitive reminders, their license was withdrawn. The license was withdrawn. Now, what has been the situation? Year 1 May, you have claimed deduction of 10 crore. Year 2 May, you claim deduction of 10 crore, right? And the actual payment is 20 crore, 20 crore. Now, this year 1, year 2, my deduction which came of 10 crore was on the basis that this fees is of 100 crores and will go for 10 years. Now, since the license is withdrawn, these figures have to be revised. These figures have to be revised. Ab how it would be revised? At the time of withdrawing of license, at the time of the license got withdrawn, what is the clear figures now? The actual payment is of 40 crores and that too for 2 years period. So technically now this 40 crores should have been claimed in that 2-year period. So technically the new deduction should be 20 crore and 20 crore. 40 divided by 2. क्योंकि अब लाइसेंस ओवर हो गया, राइट? लाइसेंस चला गया, लाइसेंस विड्रॉ हो गया. अब बट आई हैव मेड अ पेमेंट ऑफ 40 crore which were valid only for 2 crore period, 2 years period. So 40 divided by 2, revised deduction would be 20 crore, 20 crore for each year instead of 10 crore, 10 crore. Because this was going on a basis of 100 crore for 10 years. But now I have to claim 40 crores in 2 years. Simple. So that is claimed as below. Noted? Sorted? Yeah, Ginny.
Then, ma'am,
Yes.
the company has to file return again for this new.
So AO will take care of it. AO will recompute it. AO will make a rectification of it. No new return revision ka time period is not this much. So
Yes.
the AO would rectify it as per the powers under section 154.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Very good question. Sorted. So एक ये technical point था which is written under this part. अब इसको भी अगर सिर्फ you will read the language, you will get confused. So इसके साथ either in the book you can make this example or you can note it. Or you can take a screenshot, whichever way you like. So this is my manner of giving notes. Instead of providing it technically, I tend to write, explain, and then you can copy it or understand it. Or make your own examples. जैसे भी, no restriction. So अभी तक we did 33 section में, and then we did your 35 वाला list में. 35 we did, 35 ABA we did, 35 ABB we did, and 33 AB and 33 ABA we did. Okay. Now post the break, we will start with 35 AD, which is a very, 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 very important section. अभी तक किसी को doubt है? You can ask अभी or after the break. So post break में we'll start 35 AD and then we'll do छोटे-छोटे sections that are very easy. ठीक है? So let's see you after the break. Thank you so much. after the break, everyone. Fresh, clear, thoda sa समझ आ रहा है. Main important thing is because these topics, again, I told you, ये वाला list people skip, but not to be skipped. 3 hours, we'll understand it, we'll do questions, and it would be in our mind. Yes? Perfect. So now we move to our next section of the evening, very important one. You must have heard about it definitely, which is Section 35 AD. As I told you, students, why the government would come up with something like giving deductions on capital expenditures and giving 100% deductions on capital expenditures, etc. is the reason that they want certain types of businesses to grow, they want certain types of infrastructure to grow, they want certain types of developments to happen, right? So to promote them, they come up with incentives like tax incentives so that more and more people can be can be attracted to do such businesses basically, or can be motivated to do such businesses. So one such list is there in section 35 AD, which is called investment linked tax incentives, or it is called specified businesses deduction for specified businesses. So what and how would you identify what this particular section is? So the crux of the section is that instead of revenue expenditure or just of revenue expenditure, you will be allowed capital expenditure also. So if you are into specified business, along with revenue, you would be allowed capital expenditure also. This is the crux or the underlying of the section. But how you have to claim capital expenditure, what are the conditions, what you have to take care of, that is all now what we have to understand. And what type of businesses, first thing is, what type of businesses actually are allowed when we talk about the term specified businesses. So let's begin. Crux is capital expenditure would be allowed. So first of all, here is roughly a list of 14 businesses. Only if you are an entity, if you are into these 14 businesses, then only you would be allowed to claim the capital expenditure deduction. Second thing, zaruri nahi hai that if you are into such businesses, you have to claim 3580. It's an optional scheme. It's an optional scheme. If you want, you can. If you don't want, you can avoid it. You can avoid it. And also, if you're into an alternate regime, then you cannot claim it. If you are claiming 115 BAC or 115 BAA or 115 BAD, then 3580 deduction would not be allowed. Obviously, capital expenditure bhi le rahe, and then tax also you're paying less, so that is not allowed. So you have to make that wise choice that if I'm into specified business, should I go for the new regimes or special regimes or not? Okay. Now back to it. I was looking के list कहाँ दिया हुआ है so that okay. Anyway. First is you are into business of cold chain facilities. Cold storage facilities होती है. It's like a room or a temperature container box which you maintain so that the food items specifically are stored so that they do not become stale. Perishable items are basically stored. That is called cold chain facility. So you are into a business of providing cold chain facility, setting up and operating cold chain facility. Or you are into a warehousing business for storing agriculture produce. Warehousing matlab you're providing godowns, etc. for other companies to store agriculture produce. Only agriculture produce, not any other produce. For example, storing rice, pulses, etc., but storing oil is not agriculture produce, or storing sugar is not agriculture produce. Okay, sugar cane store कर रहे हो, agriculture produce. Sugar store कर रहे हो, not an agriculture produce. ठीक है? Then you are into a business of laying natural gas, crude or petroleum oil pipelines for distribution, storage, etc. You are into a business of hotel, operating a 2-star hotel. You are into a business of operating a hospital with at least 100 beds. So nursing homes do not qualify. Minimum 100 beds you should have. You are into a government housing plan of redevelopment or rehabilitation of housing projects like slum development programs, like slum development programs. जैसे अभी बॉम्बे में अडानी is into slum development projects. Yes. or into affordable housing programs. जैसे दिल्ली में DDA comes under affordable housing programs. You're into production of fertilizer. सारे business नहीं करने, any one of them or more than that, okay? Or you are into a business of inland container depot or container freight station. You are into a business of beekeeping or production of honey and bee wax. Or you are into a business of, अच्छा शुगर इधर आ गया, वेयर हाउसिंग फैसिलिटी और स्टोरेज ऑफ शुगर स्पेसिफिकली दे दिया. एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस जब तक हम पढ़ रहे थे तब तक शुगर वॉज नॉट देयर, बट नाउ वेयर हाउसिंग ऑफ शुगर इज स्पेसिफिकली दियो. Slurry pipeline for the transportation of iron ores. You are into a water fabrication manufacturing unit. You are into maintaining and operating any new infrastructure facility. Maintaining and operating any new infrastructure facility. Infrastructure facilities like you're into maintaining development of highway projects, roads, railway, bridge, waterways, port, airports, irrigation based plant. So anything which helps as an aid to infrastructure, you are into that. Then in all these situations, you are into a specified business. And if you are into a specified business, any capital expenditure you make, you would be eligible to claim deduction under section 3580. Revenue expenditure का तो सबको मिलता है, but capital expenditure का would also be allowed. That being said, audit and maintenance of books of account is mandatory. And specified business है तो losses definitely होंगे because capital expenditure you are claiming that can only be set off with specified business income. Specified business losses can only be set off with specified business income for indefinite period. For indefinite period, it can be carry forwarded. Now the question here is, ma'am, do we have to remember these names? Yes. Question would not come that Mr. A starts a specified business. No. The question would come like, so Mr. A is into the business of operating hospital with 100 beds. You automatically have to apply your brain that this is a specified business question and I have to give deduction of capital expenditure while computing income tax profits. No one would come to you and say that you have to apply thing like this. These businesses you have to remember, आगे एक problem आएगा where you have been given the dates also that from which dates these business should be commenced that they become eligible businesses for the deduction. That you can read it if you can remember, very good. If you cannot, no problem. But remembering the businesses is very important. Apart from that, you have to remember that infrastructure facility wala and pipeline wala is only for Indian company SSEs, not for all SSEs, not for all SSEs. Other conditions are basic, which you can read it. Now coming to the main crux, which is capital expenditure. कितना deduction मिलेगा capital expenditure का? 100% deduction of capital expenditure in the year when it is incurred and if it is in the year when it is incurred for the above businesses. But remember, land, goodwill or financial instruments do not qualify as capital expenditure and would not be eligible. Scientific research में भी in-house में capital expenditure was allowed. Specified business में भी in capital expenditure is allowed. वहां पे land was an exception which was not allowed. Here land, goodwill and financial instrument is an exception. Second important difference is that here also this 10,000 that if you're making any expenditure for 10,000 to a single person in a single day, that capital expenditure would not qualify for deduction. Where you have heard this 10,000 wala point before? While understanding actual cost for the WDV, वहां पे भी the same point is there. ठीक है? Understood? So try to relate it. Try to relate it. Now, so 10,000, if you're making a payment in cash, for that particular capital expenditure would not be eligible for 35 AD. That would not be eligible for 35 AD. Now, one important thing which comes in case of understanding eligibility is plant and machinery. Is plant and machinery. That if you are this point. What's the point of plant and machinery or let's say Very strange where that point went. I know it's rubber, but I want to show you on the screen. General conditions there, my bad, sorry. So now plant and machinery में one thing important you have to remember in the exam which you can be tested upon. I told you capital expenditure fully allowed. That means plant and machinery, building, whatever you are making the expenditure, that is fully allowed. Now when you're making the expenditure, capital expenditure ka reduction which you're claiming is allowed 100%, then point of claiming depreciation does not come. Similarly like scientific research. Scientific research में 10,000 वाला point नहीं है. Only 10,000 point is first we have read it under actual cost. Second, we have read it here under 35 AD. Now, plant and machinery means there is one important point you have to remember. This point is that if you are claiming deduction for plant and machinery, that means 100% capital cost of plant and machinery you are claiming as deduction. Make sure that it is new plant and machinery. It is not second-hand plant and machinery. So you are asking कि मैम second hand plant and machinery का deduction मिलेगा ही नहीं. Second hand means someone else has used it before. So second hand may only if your plant and machinery is up to 20%. If the second hand plant and machinery is up to 20% of the total machinery, then deduction can be claimed. Otherwise, it would not be claimed. For example, you are investing in a hospital and you are purchasing machines for it. So now those machines are for 10 crores. Total machines are for 10 crores. Now, out of this 10 crores, 9 crores are new machinery and 1 crore there is a second hand machinery. So I can claim full 10 crore as deduction because the second hand machinery is just 10%. Now, but suppose out of this 10 crore, 6 crore is the new machinery and 4 crore is the second hand machinery. Will I be able to claim the reduction? The answer is I would be only able to claim the reduction of 6 crore, not 4 crore. ऐसा नहीं है कि 20% तक इसमें मिल जाएगा कि 2 crore मिल जाए. No. So if second hand plant and machinery exceeds 20% of the total machinery, then second hand plant and machinery will not qualify for deduction. Only the new plant and machinery would qualify for deduction. Simple. Also, the plant and machinery which we are talking about, the second hand one, is this one which is used in India before. If it is used outside India, it is not considered as second hand. If it is used outside India, it is not considered as second hand. अब एक क्वेश्चन पूछूं, ये second hand वाला part also something we have heard about this earlier. Let's relate. Second hand was discussion in our additional machinery wala part or additional depreciation wala part also. Remember, additional depreciation of plant and machinery is allowed at 20%. वहां पे the condition was the plant and machinery should be new. Second hand machinery was not allowed. But वहां पे second hand machinery is a second hand machinery even if it is used outside India or in India. But for the purpose of 35 AD, second hand machinery is the one which is used in India before. If it is used outside India, it is not considered as second hand. It is not considered as second hand. Sorted? Clear? Yeah, Ginny.
Then, ma'am, if we import the second-hand machinery, then we consider it a new machine.
For the purpose of 35 AD, it is considered as new machinery.
Then 100% deduction will be allowed.
Yeah. Second hand ka bhi 100% deduction is allowed only if it is up to 20% of the total machinery.
Okay, ma'am.
Now, let me give you a breaker in your question only. Suppose from this 10 crore machinery, I gave you a question that 7 crore is the new machinery. 2 crore is a machinery which is imported from outside India, but it was used before in that country, imported, but it was used before. And 1 crore is another second-hand machinery. Though both of them are second-hand, but for the purpose of 35 AD, only 1 crore would be considered as second-hand. And since it is falling within the 20% limit of 10 crore, complete 10 crore would be allowed as capital expenditure deduction under section 35 AD. Okay? Because this 2 crore is not considered as second hand for 35 AD. So वो second hand की limit को count करने में आप 2 crore नहीं लोगे. Perfect, Ginny. Everyone sorted? Any doubt?
No doubt, ma'am. Thank you.
Super. So what point abhi tak we have covered? That in your 35 AD, you are allowed the reduction of capital expenditure of the businesses which are mentioned. 14 businesses are mentioned, and uska reduction capital expenditure is allowed except for land, building, goodwill, etc. When claiming reduction for land, goodwill, and financial instruments. When claiming reductions for plant and machinery, you have to be very careful that there is no second-hand machinery. If there is second-hand machinery, then you can claim the reduction of that second-hand machinery also, but up to 20% of the total plant and machinery. Beyond 20%, you are not allowed to claim. And remember, the machinery which is used outside India is not considered second-hand for the purpose of 35 AD. But for the purpose of additional depreciation, the machinery which is used outside India, that is considered second-hand. Also, if any expenditure is made for 10,000 in a single day to a single person in any mode other than account pay check, account pay bank draft, electronic clearing system, or prescribed electronic mode, that would not be considered. And if I'm claiming the reduction of section 35 AD on capital expenditure, I will not claim depreciation. I will not claim depreciation. Business, there is natural that in the first year or in the few years, you will definitely have losses because capital expenditure, huge capital expenditure is claimed. Makes sense that the specified business से ही those expenditure would specified business के income से ही those expenditure would be set off. So in short, loss of specified business can only be set off with profits of specified business, no other businesses. And if I'm claiming 3580 deduction, I will not claim the same expenditure deduction under section 10 AA or any 80IA, 80IB list, infrastructure facility specifically. 2 points are left here. One is specified business ka, I was saying that loss from specified business is technically to be set off with profits of specified business. But this brings me to a very, very, very important point. Audit is mandatory here, bookkeeping is mandatory here. Remember, the businesses which we are talking about should be new businesses. It should not be formed after splitting up, etc., etc. It should be newly started businesses. Now, suppose यहाँ पे the period for starting fertilizer business, that is if I commence fertilizer business on or after 1st April 2011, then only it would be an eligible business for 3580, right? Then only it would be an eligible business for 3580 because it says that you have to start the operations from 1st April 2011 for it to qualify a specified business. But suppose I have one hospital ka kaam and one hotel ka kaam. Both are specified business. Hospital is also specified business. Hotel is also specified business. Loss of hospitals can be claimed from, can be set off from profits of hotel. Yes, no. ये नहीं लिखा कि same business say you have to satisfy. It's written that you can adjust the losses of specified business with profits of specified business, and it can be any specified business, right? Necessarily not the same hospital ke hi loss income say you have to set off. Number one. Number two, suppose I have hospital ka business, hotel ka business, hospital with 100 beds, hotel with 3-star category, and I have fertilizer business also. But this fertilizer business I started back in 2005. Carefully listen. But to be eligible expenditure, but to be an eligible business under 3580, it should be commenced on or after 1st April 2011. Now the fertilizer business started in 2005. Now the genuine question is that can I adjust hospital ka losses from fertilizer business ka income? Hospital ka losses from fertilizer business ka income.
No, ma'am. As it has been started from 2005 and the deduction will be eligible from 2011.
Okay, makes sense. Okay. Does anyone has any other view? Ankita, Poonam, Mamta, do you have any other view? The question is that fertilizer business though is an eligible business, but it is not qualifying for my 3580 deduction. Why? Because it was started on 2005, and to qualify here, I should have started it after April 11. But in this case, I can adjust it with fertilizer business. The answer is yes, it can be adjusted. Just because it is not eligible for 3580 business list, it does not mean it's not a specified business. I can adjust it with the I can adjust the losses of this hospital with the fertilizer wala business. Number one. Number two, what if it has started after 2011, but I'm not claiming, or it was started in 2020, but I'm not claiming the deduction of 3580 from this business? Then also I can set it off, because at least it's in the list of those specified businesses. At least it's in the list of specified businesses. अब वो claim नहीं कर रहे, that is another thing. But the point is, it's a list of specified businesses. You can claim this. You can claim the loss of this from the profits of this. Okay, this is a very important point.
Clear, ma'am.
Very good. Next question, which a lot of people ask, or which the examiner asked, the last point specifically, is on transfer of business assets. Transfer of specified business assets. Two scenarios can happen here in case of transfer of specified business asset. One scenario is that I am using that particular asset for my non-specified business. NSB I'm writing, okay, for a non-specified business. Or second is I can transfer it to third party without using for any other specified non-specified businesses. If it is used from one specified business to another specified business, that is not a problem. First building was there, it was used for hotel. Now in that building, I'm using hospital, not a problem. But when the specified business asset is not used for specified business anymore, or it is not more an asset of the assessee, what will happen? Suppose I've transferred it to third party. That is without using it for any other purpose. I've transferred it, made a sale out of it. Suppose the building which was there for hotel, now I have given that building, I have sold that building. Simple sa hai, whatever is the sale price, that would be my PGBP income. Now, this is something point which we discussed when we were doing section 28 ka understanding. Last point hai wahan pe, the sale of asset used for specified business always would qualify as PGBP income. This is given under section 28. So if any asset which is used for specified business and 100% reduction would have been claimed, right? Now when it is transferred directly to third party, whatever the sale price is there, it would be your PGBP income, even if you are selling it after 10 years, 15 years, 100 years, whenever you are selling, whatever you are selling for, it could be your PGBP income. Not the spread or not the net amount sale minus cost, exactly the sale price would be the PGBP income. Okay. Second thing can be, instead of selling it, you're transferring it to a non-specified business. So suppose, same assessee mein, suppose I had a business of hotel, but I also have a production of, suppose, what production? Textiles. Now the building, I'm using it for now my textile production. Suppose, okay. Now what will happen? My building of a specified business is now being used for non-specified business. First of all, it should not be done technically it should technically not be done within 8 years from the acquisition. Technically, it should not be done within 8 years from the date of the acquisition. Now, basically, it's technically written 8 years from the year in which the acquisition happened. Technically, it should not be done. But if it is done, then what? If it is done before 8 years from the date of acquisition, then what will happen? Just 1 second, student. There's some disruption. Just 1 second, students. One emergency. Just 1 second. Sorry, students, some disruption happened. Sorry. So I was saying, if it is transfer, first of all, if you're using an asset for specified business, technically it should not be used for any other business or any other than specified business 8 years before the date of acquisition. But if you're using it, then what will happen? Suppose I used one asset for specified business in year 1 and year 2. Now in year 3, I transferred it to my other business. We were talking about building. Okay. Now what will happen? There would be two scenarios. There would be two results. Two results means one result which would impact the specified business and one result which would impact the non-specified business. One result is that you are now no more using the asset. So यहाँ पे definitely there would be a business income in the specified business wala business part, in the specified business ka books, and in the non-specified business ka part, what would be the impact? The impact would be the actual cost which you have to take for written down value for the block, right? Two questions would arise. What would be the impact in the specified business wala segment and what would be the impact in the non-specified business wala segment? Now, suppose this building which I'm talking about is a building of 10 crores. Is a building of 10 crores. Year 1 and year 2, obviously I have claimed 10 crores for deduction. Why am I writing 3 here? Okay, I have claimed already 10 crore ka reduction in year 1 itself, but I'm transferring now it in the year 3. The question which must be coming in your mind is what would be the actual cost for year 3 and what would be the business income for the specified business. Now the question comes like this. In the year when it is transferred, there would be a business income. Now, what would be the business income? The reduction which was claimed would be reversed. The reduction which was claimed would be reversed. But एक थोड़ा सा relief दिया. Whatever depreciation would have been allowed would be taken impact of, and net of the reduction would be reversed. मतलब 10 crore अगर claim नहीं करते as deduction, at least you would have claimed depreciation every year. Yes, if you would have not claimed deduction of 10 crore as capital expenditure, you would have claimed depreciation every year as deduction. Correct. So utna to net off karke we will treat as income. That means first year you would have claimed depreciation of 10 crore pe 1 crore. Then 9 crore pe 0.9 crore. written down value method say. So what should be treated as income? 8.1 crore should be treated as business income in third year when the transfer is happening. And third year onwards, third year and onwards, the actual cost which you will add in the block would be same, that 8.1 crore, which is the actual cost minus the depreciation that would have been allowed had 100% capital expenditure would not have been claimed. Correct? So 8.1 crore would become the actual cost to be added in the block for the non-specified business. And now 8.1 crore onwards, the non-specified business would claim the depreciation, Sorted? Should I repeat this point or is it clear? Yes, no, see, this is the technical one. एक बारी देखो, समझो. Again, I'll quickly repeat for you all.
Yes,
Or,
ma'am.
yeah, just 1 second. And I'll pick up the question also.
Ma'am, please repeat once again.
I'll repeat also and pick up the question both. Don't worry. So, the question is about the transfer of specified business asset. That is, आपने already you have claimed 100% capital expenditure reduction and now you are transferring it. So one is that you are transferring it within your same business, within the same SSC, but to any other business. It can also happen that you're transferring to a specified business. If you're transferring to a specified business, then there is no problem because technically capital expenditure was claimed. It is now been transferred to some other business, not a problem. Problem would happen when you're transferring it to your own any other business or any other unit. Okay, which is a non-specified one. If you're transferring it to third party, what will happen? Third party character is very simple. Whatever is the sale price would become my PGBP income as the same is written under section 28. Whatever is the sale price would become my PGBP income. But if I am transferring it within the same business, within the same SSC, but a non-specified business. So technically, it is becoming the part of a non-specified business. So they should also know कि actual cost क्या लेना है to add it in the block, right? Because I have to claim depreciation in the non-specified business. And technically, here you have claimed capital expenditure, but now you're transferring it. So intention was what? Intention was to transfer it to non-specified business and then to transfer to the third party. So to curb that intention that people do not make a frequent transfer from specified to non-specified and then claim expenditure, then avoid that this wala part, just to the sake for it, they apply the ceiling limit that you should not transfer it within the period of 8 years from the acquisition. If you are transferring it within that 8 years period or during that 8 years period, then whatever deduction you claimed should be reversed back. So I claimed a deduction of 10 crore when the building was considered as a business as a capital expenditure for specified business. I would have claimed the deduction of 10 crore, right? Yes. Now, one thing. Thing number two, okay, I am reversing that 10 crore, I agree. But I said to the authorities, acha, agar 10 crore nahi leti, if I would have not claimed 10 crore ka deduction, at least I would have got depreciation ka deduction. That you give me the impact of, okay, the authority said yes. Instead of claiming 10 crore ka deduction, 10 crore ka deduction which you claimed, treating that as business income, we understand that if that 10 crore ka reduction would not have been given, in year 1, you would have claimed 1 crore ka depreciation. In year 2, you would have claimed 0.9 crore ka depreciation. So the net result of the business income should not be 10, should be 10 minus those depreciation which would have been allowed to you. Hence, 8.1 crore would be treated as business income and not 10 crore. This point clear? Perfect. अब यहाँ तो this is a treatment over for the specified business. But for non-specified business, they have to add a value in the block. Because now it's a proper business asset which has come to them. Depreciable asset है, value पे add करेंगे. The actual cost पे no. the value which is ultimately treated as business income, or the value technically in law language, the actual cost minus the depreciation which would have been allowed to specified business. Net of that would be now the actual cost for the non-specified business on which they will claim the depreciation, or on which would be added in the block of the asset to claim the depreciation. Ginny and everyone, is it clear? Give the thumbs up, everyone. Poonam, Ankita, Mamta.
Ma'am, then
Ji.
this 8.1 crore rupees will be added in the block of the new
Was a non-specified business.
non-specified to whom we have transferred the asset,
Yes.
यानी जिसको
So,
हमने ट्रांसफर किया है उसकी बुक में ऐड हो जाएगा ना ये?
जिसको हमने नहीं किया, बुक्स हमारी है, द बिजनेसेस आर डिफरेंट. एंड रिमेंबर डे वन पे बोला था, फॉर एवरी बिजनेस द प्रॉफिट्स एंड एवरीथिंग आर कंप्यूटेड सेपरेटली, राइट?
Yes ma'am, yes.
तो
Now
अब एसएससी सेम है. मेरा सेकंड बिजनेस है, इट्स माय सेकंड बिजनेस. उसका प्रॉफिट निकालने के लिए डेप्रिसिएशन निकालना पड़ेगा. डेप्रिसिएशन निकालने के लिए एक्चुअल कॉस्ट ऑफ एसेट चाहिए, व्हिच आई हैव टू एड इट एज एडिशंस इन द ब्लॉक.
yes ma'am, understood. Yes ma'am.
Perfect. Everyone, is it sorted? Poonam, sorted? Very good. So this is the technical point. Now, इस पे एक question नोट कर लेते हैं along with this example. Okay, this is an illustration on that specified business transfer asset, or specified business asset being transferred. So the decision says ABC Limited is a company having, having two units. Unit A carries on specified business of warehousing facility of sugar. Unit B is a non-specified business of warehousing facility of oil. Unit A commenced in operation on 1st April 2023, and it claimed a deduction of 100 lakhs incurred on purchase of two buildings, 50 lakhs each, for operating a warehousing facility for storage of sugar. दो बिल्डिंग बनाई 50 लाख की, ठीक है, under section 35 AD for assessment year 24-25. However, in February 25, Unit A transferred one of its building to Unit B. Examine the tax implications. Now, first of all, Unit A specified business के point of view से we'll think. When did the business start? On 1st April 23. Okay, now technically this 50 lakhs ka deduction was claimed in previous year 23-24 as deduction under 35 AD. Right? Now we are in previous year 24-25. In previous year 24-25, before closing of the books, we saw in February 25, this 50 lakhs of building is transferred from Unit A to Unit B. Though buildings are 100 lakhs is just given for confusion, okay? Only 50 lakhs we have to discuss the impact, which is one of the building. Now, in previous year 24-25, what would be the impact? Impact one would be in the specified businesses, which would be 50 lakhs would be reversed and would be treated as PGBP income. But the depreciation which would have been otherwise allowed would be net off to treat it as income, because अगर वो 50 लाख claim नहीं करता, at least 5 lakh he would have claimed as depreciation, right? So this 5 lakh would be net off, so 45 lakhs would be treated as PGBP income. Why am I writing when it is here? Okay, so it is treated as deemed income under section 35 AD. 45 lakhs. This is one impact. Second impact, which is coming from the proviso to section 43(1), which is the cost of the asset, is what should be the actual cost for previous year 24-25 in the business of warehousing facility of edible oil. That is 50 lakhs minus 5 lakhs, that is the depreciation which otherwise would have been allowed. So 45 lakh would be treated as actual cost and would be added in the block of building for previous year 24-25, and the depreciation would be allowed as such. Addition would be at 45 lakhs. अब 45 लाख पे आप obviously 10% लगाओगे because February 5% लगाओगे because February 25 में addition हुआ है. Less than 180 days. So very, very, very important topic of section 35 AD. Sorted, clear, covered up. New इसमें points to be cleared are what are the specified businesses. Question can be asked on 20% plant and machinery wala, second hand machinery wala. Question can be asked on set off of losses, and question can be asked on this transfer of specified business asset to non-specified business. See, when it is transferred to third party, transferred, scrapped, demolished, whatever, in whichever year, 1, 2, 3, or even after 100 years, it would be treated as PGBP income. But when it is transferred to non-specified business, then you have to take care of these small points. And that too before 8 years. चले आगे? Is it clear? Perfect. Now, upcoming tradition. Yes.
If it is transferred after 8 years, won't this provisions be applied?
Then there would be no impact in the specified businesses. And similarly, the actual cost for the non-specified business would be considered as nil.
Okay.
Perfect. Very good. I was thinking why did no one asked about this question. But very nice.
Thank you.
So now 35CC and CCA are like basic ones. So let's discuss. Uske baad common one is amortization wala. So 35CC, triple C, you can mark it as just read once, go through it once wala part. Very, very rare question comes. Abhi tak the sections which we have done, section 35 is very important. Section 35 AD is very important. I'm not saying others you don't have to see. This you don't have to miss in any cost. Then telecom wala can come. These are very important. Now we come to general section. So if 35 triple C, 35 CCA and 35 CCD. CCD is not the cafe wala CCD, normal CCD. So these are talking about if you are any SSE who is either into a rural development project or a rural development fund, or you're making a contribution into a rural development fund which is notified by the Rural Development Authority, you will get 100% deduction. Again, not related to business, but you are making a contribution to a rural development fund. So question can come that the SSE made the following contributions. How a question can come? You identify the deduction allowed under business income. Suppose he has made a contribution to scientific research, that will go under section 35. He has made a contribution to National Notified Rural Development Fund, that will go under section 35 CCA. Even if they are not related to business, but he will get the deduction. Next is 35 CCC, which is an expenditure incurred on notified agriculture extension project. Now, quickly to tell you, this is where this SE is starting any agriculture project. First of all, he has to get an approval of Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India. He has to file a form and tell that what is his project about. Okay? And if the project is approved by the ministry, he has to file an application in form 3CO. Not important for you. I got this information, so I'm giving it. Okay? He has to tell that I am starting an agriculture extension project. Then what is the project about? He has to give the details. The cost of project should be minimum 25 lakhs. Once it is approved, whatever expenditure is there would be allowed as deduction. Remember, the audits is mandatory. Wherever capital expenditure is allowed as deduction, audits are generally mandatory. But since if you are into the new schemes, you cannot claim 35 CCA as deduction. 35 CCC as deduction. Then 35 CCD is similar to agriculture extension project. Instead of this, now you are into a notified skill development project. Here the SSC, who is a company, is starting a skill development project. इसके लिए approval किससे ले रहा है? Ministry of Skill Development Agency से. You take an approval from them by filing an application. Once the project is approved, you have to maintain your books, get the accounts audited, and you can claim the deduction of both capital and revenue expenditure. Skill development project, like you are into any skill development project, the rules here are specified. Rule 6AA Yeah, 6AED है, which tells about what type of skill development projects you can be into. It can be basic accountancy project, accountancy skills, beauty parlors, a lot of them. To name a few, repair, any traditional skilling, anything. So basically, government, that is focusing a lot on skill development. So if you're into a skill development project approved, then whatever training center, and you have a different training center for it, whatever cost you incur would be allowed as deduction, But since if you are a company who is claiming the new regime, that is 115 BAA or 115 BAB, you would not be allowed as deduction for 35 CCD, not be eligible. So very less these three sections come from. Now we are moving to another important one, another list, which is of list of 35D. 35D is the most important technically. Then there's 35DD, and then there's 35 double DA. So if abhi tak, if you have to break up, you can break it in a simple manner like how to remember? Simple manner हमने start किया था from section 33AB and 33ABA. So you remember it कि ये वाले are for tea, coffee and sugar, tea, coffee and rubber, and this is for site restoration fund. इसके साथ साथ you have to remember rule 7A, 7B and rule 8. ठीक है? This is one list. Another list is of वो वाला 35 ABA and 35 ABB, which is of telecom. ठीक है? This is one group. Then another important wala group is section 35, which is of scientific research, and 35 AD, which is of specified businesses. ठीक है? इसमें भी दो पार्ट है, इन हाउस एंड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस. इसमें कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर मिलेगा, इसमें भी कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर मिलेगा when it talks about in house. So just make sure that you identify the difference between these two. यहाँ पे there is no there's only land which disqualifies here, land, goodwill, financial instruments. यहाँ पे 10 years वाला condition भी है. Pre commencement से पहले any capital expenditure that is allowed under 35 AD, but commencement से पहले any capital expenditure is not allowed under scientific research. Only revenue expenditure is allowed. This is how you have to not get confused, okay? Then there is another group which is of 35CCA, 35CC and 35CCD, right? This is a group of those projects, rural, agricultural and skill development. ठीक है, कैटेगराइज हो गया, कंफ्यूजन नहीं. अब हम आगे चल रहे हैं, which is why this is a separate category, I'll tell you, because यहाँ पे mostly why is it not moving down? Yeah. The category is 35D, 35AD and 35DDA. AD क्यों लिख रही हूँ मैं, sorry, 35D, 35DD and 35DDA. This is basically जहाँ पे 5 years वाला period है. These are amortization expenditure, voluntary retirement and amalgamation and voluntary retirement. इनके लिए 5-year period है, which I'll let you know now. So this is how you have to categorize of what we have studied. बहुत easy हो जाएगा इसे. ऐसे line से याद करोगे तो नहीं. 33 वाला list में दो है, which is for tea, coffee, rubber. 35 ABA and AB वाला है for telecom. 35 के starting CCC, CCD तक, CCD है. Is for those projects. 35 and 35 AD are important, and now 35D, 35DD and 35DDA are one. Okay, shall we begin? Chalo. Now, first is for the amortization of preliminary expenses. Few things, preliminary expenses क्या होते हैं? Prior incorporation से पहले वाले expenses, which we generally understand. But this particular type of deduction is allowed to Indian companies and B to other residents. So can I say this particular type of deduction is allowed only to resident person? Because foreign company, until unless they make an arrangement of payments of dividend in India, do not qualify as a resident. So can I say this is allowed to resident person? A lot of people think this is only for companies. No, this is for resident person, be it Indian company or be it other resident non-corporate. Preliminary expenses, so generally incorporation se pehle we understand it like there's a complete list. Let me show you. Expenditures like memorandum drafting, registration fees, underwriting fees, subscription fees, drafting fees, any other fees like this. But other residents, other than non or other than company के लिए what would be a preliminary expenses? See, that can come specifically when you're starting a project. Project को start करने से पहले, guys, a lot of surveys, a lot of prior expenditures goes. Not technically only scientific expenditures, but you have to have a feasibility report, you have to have expert opinions, you have to have a projection, you have to have a lot of approvals, right? So maybe companies के लिए we understand there can be project also and there can be incorporations also. Other than companies के लिए, there is technically when a project is about to start and you have to make preliminary expenses, survey you have to do, feasibility you have to test, approvals you have to get, market surveys ho gaya, some services of engineers, consultants, etc. you have to get. That is preliminary expenses. Okay. So one thing is clear that the deduction of preliminary expenses is allowed only when the commencement happens. Only when once the commencement of the business is there. It is not necessary that preliminary expenses are allowed, cannot be done when the business is going on. It can be done. Suppose I'm already running a business, but now I'm starting a new project under the business. So I can do preliminary expenses. Make that image clear out of your mind that it is not necessary that only before commencement of business you will do preliminary expenses. Suppose I am into a certain project already, but now I am launching a new product. So uske liye bhi I can do preliminary expenses. It's not necessary again that every preliminary expenses is done before commencement. Now back to the understanding of how preliminary expenses are allowed. So if you read the heading says that preliminary expenses are amortized. Amortized hota hai to wo during the period hota hai. If amortization happens, then it is during a certain period. So amortization of preliminary expenses happen in 5 equal installments. 5 equal installments commencing from the year when it is incurred or commencing from the year of commencement, whichever is year of commencement of business, or when it is incurred, whichever is earlier. So suppose I have started the expenditure 5 years back, but the business have started today. So from this year only, I will claim preliminary expenses in 5 equal installments, 5 equal annual installments. So one installment this year, then next year, then next year, then next year, and then next year. Same expenditure would be allowed under section 3580. Or suppose I'm already commencing a business and I have done the preliminary expenses today, then once from this year I can claim it. But the question which will be asked here is, what is the amount of expenditure allowed? I can do any amount of expenditure to claim the deduction? Technically, no. The expenditure is allowed up to a capping limit. Capping limit is either the actual expenditure, what you have done on preliminary expenses as a preliminary expenses, or a capping is there, 5%. You will ask 5% of what? 5% of cost of project if you are talking about the non-resident, if we are talking about other than company, or 5% of capital employed if you're talking about company, और cost of project. अब सपोज करो कंपनी ही स्टार्ट हो रही थी प्रोजेक्ट के लिए, अब उस केस में कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड देखोगे या कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट देखोगे? 5% of what you will do. So you will see whichever is more beneficial. 5% of capital employed you want to pick, or you want to pick 5% of cost of project. It is on you. Which one you will pick? Which one is higher, right? So 5% of capital employed or cost of project. Then compare it with the actual expenditure. Whichever is lower, that would be your classifying amount for preliminary expenses that would be allowed in 5 years period. That would be allowed in 5 years period. That is divided by 5. So step 1 is to not calculate the preliminary expenses. Step 1 is to calculate either the cost of project or the capital employed. If the question is of a company, if the question is of other than company, then cost of project. Then do the 5%. Then compare it with the actual expenditure. Whichever is lower would be your qualifying amount. Then that qualifying amount has to be claimed in total 5 years. So divide by 5. Every year installment come, that would be your preliminary expenses ka installment. Okay to go? अब क्वेश्चन ऑब्वियसली सबके माइंड में आ रहा होगा कि व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड एंड व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट. इट इज डिफाइंड अंडर दिस सेक्शन. You don't have to go anywhere else. It is clearly defined under this section. When I talk about the cost of project, it means your expenditure in the fixed asset. Simple. Your expenditure in the fixed asset. And when I talk about capital employed, that means your share capital plus long-term borrowings plus any long-term debt. No reserve and surplus, nothing. Share capital, long-term borrowing and debt. अब क्वेश्चन कैसे आ सकते हैं? Obviously, अब since it is to be claimed in 5 years period and since it is to be seen whether correctly claimed, the audit is mandatory. But how can a question come? A question can come like, you have been given capital, different amount. You have to pick share capital, debt and the long-term borrowings. Uska 5% you will do. You will pick the cost of project. Uska 5% you will do. Whichever is higher, you will take that and then you will compare it with actual expenditure. Whichever is lower, that is your preliminary expenses divided by 5. Or a question can come of a full-fledged question that in the information itself, it's given to you, Mr. A started a project 4 years back or 3 years back, and the preliminary expenses undertaken at the time of starting the project was 10 lakh. Every year 2 lakh is to be claimed. So automatically this year no one will tell you to claim 2 lakh. You have to automatically in your income tax business income calculation, you have to reduce 3580 ka 2 lakhs as the installment for preliminary expenses. Okay? So again, I'm again saying that no one will tell you to do this. You have to apply your brain by understanding कि हाँ अच्छा question is of कहीं preliminary expenses लेकर maybe preliminary expenses is not written, a prior period expenses written or incorporation expenses is written or any term from this has been picked up. So you have to be careful in understanding अच्छा this is a question of preliminary expenses. Or cost of memorandum printing or legal charges for memorandum is given. So that means you have to understand, okay, they are talking about preliminary expenses. Sorted? Any doubt under section 35D? Next, we come to amalgamation and demerger, which is section 35DD. इसमें भी क्या है, amalgamation and demerger हो रहा है, उस पे expenses लगते हैं. Yes, definitely लगते हैं. Lot of reports goes, lot of due diligence goes, lots of approvals goes, etc. Lot of project understanding goes. So definitely amalgamation demerger में there is your expenditures are involved. But who will claim the expenditure? Obviously, the one who has incurred the expenditure. The one who has incurred, the expenditure would claim the expenditure, but this also is allowed in 5 equal installments. This also is allowed in 5 equal installments. Clear? Next is voluntary retirement scheme 35DDA. Please raise your hand and tell me what is 35DDA. Not what is 35DDA. What is voluntary retirement scheme? किसी को पता है what is voluntary retirement scheme? Have you heard of it? No? Does anyone know? Yeah, Jimmy.
Ma'am, voluntary retirement scheme means a person retired before superannuation period.
Very good. So this is generally very common in PSUs, banks, etc. Very good. In government companies, etc., where the company has a policy of voluntary retirement. It can be done two ways. Either the company can ask the employees to voluntarily retire. They open the scheme for some period, that we're opening a voluntary retirement scheme. If someone want to retire, they can retire, or if they want to give voluntary retirement, they can give. Or the employee who is uh, now fed up of his work pressure or has some other plans, he himself can choose to voluntarily retire. In both the cases, the company is at benefit and the employee is also at benefit. The company would, whatever is generally done at the time of retirement, the gratuity, etc., whatever is generally done at the time of retirement is given to the employee at the time of voluntary retirement also. It's not that if I join today, I'll be qualifying as voluntary retirement. There is a certain period of service which I have to qualify to be eligible for that VRS scheme. VRS कहते हैं इसको बहुत commonly, that VRS ले लिया. A lot of you have heard. Whatever pension otherwise is allowed at the time of retirement, the pension here also would be given at voluntary retirement. Company को benefit कैसे? The cost of the salary over the period of years is now finished. You don't have to pay salary. Now the pension thing comes, so the NPS it has taken up. The company has the benefit of cost cutting here, and employee maybe not getting a higher pension or a higher gratuity figure, which he would have otherwise got in 5 years or 10 years when he would have retired, but he's getting a decent figure. So that is also okay with him. Question is not from the employee perspective, because employee perspective. So the question is not from the employee perspective. The question is from the employer perspective. Who would be doing the kharcha at the time of VRS? Kharcha like the gratuity, whatever they are paying as a VRS to the employee. How will they claim as deduction? Now, since the VRS is actually, why did I tell you this story? To understand that why 5-year expenditure over the period of years, you're paying him the sum today. So instead of claiming that sum today itself, you claim that sum in 5 installments. You claim that sum in 5 installments, what you have paid to the employee under the VRS scheme or under the voluntary retirement scheme. So whatever expenditure you have incurred under this scheme would not be allowed in full. It would be allowed in installment in 5 years. So simply suppose I have paid that person 40 lakhs. So every year, 8 lakhs for deduction I will claim under 35 DDA. So if a question comes to you, PNL main, they have written 40 lakhs paid to Mr. X, who retired taking VRS. So what you will do, first of all, you will add back that 40 lakhs because that is not allowed. Allowed is only 1/5. So you will reduce 8 lakhs as deduction under 35 DDA. This is how you have to do the question. Sorted? Clear? And please, people go very smart and they show only addition of 32 lakhs and they will say, ma'am, sahi kar kya hai? Technically, you have done the right thing. But please make sure that you do it in parts, that so that the test checker know that, okay, this guy has claimed 35 DDA ka deduction and he has disallowed what should be disallowed. Don't act over smart and do 32 lakhs ka adding back. Net impact is that, but go step by step. Again, a pro tip. Now, another thing which you have to remember under where I was saying, so यहाँ पे भी 5 years है, यहाँ पे भी 5 years है, यहाँ पे भी 5 years. Now 35D, which is amortization of preliminary expenses, and 35 DDA, which is for the expenditure on VRS. In both the sections, there is one thing which is discussed is that suppose that instead of one company claiming it, amalgamation happened or demerger happened, you were allowed 5 installments. Now suppose 3rd year onwards, amalgamation happened. Now who will claim the 3rd installment, 4th installment, and 5th installment? From the year when the amalgamation happens, that year and the remaining year, the new company, the amalgamating company or the resulting company in case of demerger will claim the expenditure as deduction. So both for 35D and 35 DDA, the same thing happens. Okay, so the new company will claim the expenditure. Amalgamated or resulting company. the new entity. Go through section 35D, DD and DD एक बार and ask if there's any doubt. Or otherwise also you want me to repeat any point which we have discussed abhi tak? Meanwhile, I'll go if you have any. Meanwhile, I'll go through if you have any questions. Go through them quickly. And you can prepare this chart also for your quick revision. क्यों कोई डाउट नहीं? Everything is sorted. Sure. इतने easy तो नहीं थे sections. But trust me, guys, immediately, if after today's class, take a break, have your dinner, before going to sleep, if you read all these sections, trust me, these would be impressed in your mind forever. So please make sure that you go through these sections and do the questions, because again I'm telling you, people ignore it, but sometimes if the luck is not in our favor, definitely a 4 marker, 5 marker or a case study would come. At least adjustment from 35D, 35DDA or your 35AD and 35, definitely adjustment is there. The next section, 35E, I am not sure should I take up or not, because it's actually not important. It is for extracting of minerals and mineral ores, and in my career, I have not seen a question coming from it. It's just that whatever expenditure you start, just for the mine, you have to make the mine fit, and for preparing that mine, whatever expenditure you have incurred before you start a commercial production, that is allowed as expenditure in 10 years, 110 every year. This is the basis of it. Otherwise, I don't think so. It should be taken up. So now it's 8:40 almost. Should I start with section 36 or should we start that in the next class? Whatever you people will say, I'll pick it up. I think we can do small one. Yeah, Ginny.
एक्चुअली
Yes.
यानी आपने अभी जो क्वेश्चन बोला कि
हाँ.
क्वेश्चन पूछिए, तो उस टाइम पे यानी जब ये टॉपिक्स चल रहे थे तब हम लोगों ने पूछे, यानी जो डाउट्स था वो तब क्लियर हुआ, लेकिन अभी हाल नहीं आ रहा है यानी अभी हाल सब कुछ रिलेटेड ही लग रहा था, इसीलिए
रिलेटेड है. तभी मैंने ना ये जो आप स्क्रीन पे देखोगे ना, वो जो हमने ब्रेकअप किया ना कि हाउ टू understand what we have studied today, this is how you can divide it. These are the different segments. टी कॉफी रबर, then telecom, then ये 35cc वाले जो जनरल से है, then ये 5 years पीरियड वाले 35D, 35DDA, DDA and 35 and 35AD. तो ऐसे करना, ठीक है? So अभी ऑल क्लियर है? श्योर?
यस मैम, अभी तो क्लियर है.
गुड. छोटे
थैंक यू.
छोटे पॉइंट बहुत सारे थे, बट आज बहुत सारे थे.
यस मैम.
आई एम जस्ट सीइंग कि अगर कुछ स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन मिलता है फिर case study 5 and case study 6 are your homework, because that is related to 35D and 35D and 35AD. ठीक है? and उसके अलावा सारी केस स्टडी 37 से रिलेटेड है, so I will not pick it up. You can do question number. अच्छा, टेस्ट नॉलेज में you can do question number 1A, question number 2 completely, and you can practice question number 4. 4 भी नहीं, just because it's 5, so इसमें बहुत सारे 36 का पार्ट है. Leave question number 4. Now, question number 5. Question number 5 you can practice. And what else is important? We have covered up. Question number 8. Question छोटे parts हैं, so we'll do it all together. Yeah, question number 8 तक please. 8 तक नहीं, what all I have told वो वाले, ठीक है? Section 36 थोड़ा सा introduction देखिए, and थोड़ा सा या जी नहीं.
Ma'am, if next lecture or any other lecture, if we have some doubt occurring regarding these topics, then we can ask now.
Definitely. Not only this topic, basic concepts, any topic if you have, I'll take it up. Don't worry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. And in fact, I am trying to speed up in a manner that the last class of PGBP may at least we have 1 hour in your doubt solving and in the question which have come in the previous year or any other such important questions. Okay? So that your confidence is also boost up. How to attempt it? 2-3 questions I'll let you know how to attempt it, or important MCQs we can take up so that you are prepared.
Okay, ma'am. Thanks, ma'am.
Okay? So don't worry about that in case I'm rushing up. So that's why I'm trying that by the end of the next week, the entire PGBP except ICDS is covered so that you can revise it over the weekend, and on the last class of PGBP, you can ask it. In fact, thanks to Institute that they have given a ample time to cover these topics in detail and not just been given 2 or 3 classes. Because the topic any topic can be covered in 1 class also, 2 class also, 3 also, and 5 also. It's just that how deep we have to go and how small points we can cover up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? So should I start with section 36?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So section 36 ka, I will take it up जहां तक भी हम इसे क्लिक कर सकते हैं अभी तक. सी what category you did. Section 30 to 32 was about building plant and machinery furniture and depreciation. Then 33 onwards एक अजीब सा list था which we saw in the sense कि there are certain businesses related deductions, right? If you're into telecom, if you're into scientific research, or if you're into agriculture project, or if you're into any national skills project, something like that, right? Now, 36 and 37 are just the 2 sections where the list of eligible expenditures are there. Uske onwards are disallowabilities. That if you do not follow the condition, so and so will happen. If you do not follow the condition, so and so will happen. So, section 36 is one such other deductions list where they tried to pick up common type of expenditures which are there for all. Like common expenditures, insurance premium, employer contribution, interest on borrowed capital, like these. The common one, bonuses, commission. You will see the list 36 subsection 1, clause 1 onwards. There are all the types of common expenditure which are your section 36 has. Uske alawa, if any other expenditure is left, that is claimed under section 37, which is a blanket section. 36 has a list of expenditures, subsection 1 may clause 1 and so on. 37 is a general expenditure. So 36 may the first list may each clause has a different type of expenditure. Each clause talks about a different kind of expenditure, but with a condition, but with some condition. So first is insurance premium. Insurance premium, friends, for stock in trade. If you are paying stock in trade मतलब business stock को if you are insuring out, उसके लिए insuring मतलब general insurance which you are paying for the stock, उसको insure करने के लिए the premium amount would be allowed as expenditure. The premium amount would be allowed as expenditure. Then 36 subsection 1 clause 1A talks about insurance premium when you are into a milk business or a milk cooperative society, then obviously you will insure the life of the stock which is your cattle's. Cattle's को insure करोगे तो उसका premium not important. Third is also premium 36 subsection 1 clause 1B 1A 1B all talks about premium. 1B talks about the insurance of employees. Employees के लिए if you are getting the insurance, health insurance, not life insurance, health insurance, if you are getting for employees, then that is allowed as deduction. Then that is allowed as deduction. Employee के perspective से नहीं सोचना. Business आप हो, you are a entity conducting business for your employees. If you are spending any amount for insuring or for self or for saving, not for saving, for the expenditures of the health of employees, then that amount the premium is considered as deduction. And generally we here we talk about group insurance policy, और अगर आपको particular management में भी कराना है, that also is allowed. But remember, it should be in any mode other than cash. Non-cash is not allowed. मतलब other non-cash होना चाहिए. Cash is not allowed. So this is also one thing which you have to mark, that if a cash expenditure is given in the question, cash insurance premium given, that would be disallowed, because allowed is only when you make it in other than cash. Next is bonus and commission. Section 36, subsection 1, clause 2. Bonus and commission. A bonus and commission is salary ka part only. Yes, it is allowed as deduction. Why it is written separately? Because here there is one important point. You can write it here. Bonus and commission is allowed as deduction under section 36, subsection 1, clause 2. But it is disallowed if it is not paid before return filing date. Not paid before return filing date. So 36(1) में कोई चीज आपको allowed है कि bonus and commission allowed है, but at the same time if you do not, if it is payable on the return filing date, it would be disallowed. So as an auditor आप क्या करोगे? You will open the books of accounts. You will open the books of accounts when you're auditing, ठीक है? You will pick up the list of payable items or the due items, ठीक है? Payable items you see, oh, bonus is still payable, or return filing period is closed, bonus is not paid, we will disallow it. We will disallow it. Okay, you can write it here, impact of 43B. And एक और चीज, why they did it separately was because a lot of time bonus and commission को लोग दिखा देते थे, but actually it was a way of dividend. Though it does not make sense, this particular point, because dividend, they did not used to show it as dividend, they used to show it as bonus. Employees को dividend दिखाने की जगह who are having stock options, they showed it as bonus. Why they did so? Because dividend पे at that time dividend distribution tax लगता था, which was an extra cost for the company. So to avoid that, they used to show it as bonus. So both things को ध्यान से समझना कि ये पॉइंट से मत कंफ्यूज होना कि shall not be payable to them as profits or dividends if it had been not been paid as bonus or commission. So generally अगर आप dividend को bonus and commission दिखा रहे हो, that is technically wrong. That's why a separate section was given under section 36 subsection 1. Next is interest on borrowed capital. इसको हम ऐसे समझते हैं सिंपल वे से, and probably I'll pick up this as the last one. अच्छा, इंटरेस्ट ऑन लोन है. अब लोन अगर कोई पर्सनल पर्पस के लिए, दैट वुड बी obviously not allowed. Personal purpose मतलब sole proprietor का business. Sole proprietor has taken a loan for sponsoring some of his investments. Not obviously interest would not be allowed. Interest would not be allowed. Only business purpose के लिए if the loan is taken that would be allowed. Now you will ask कि मैम suppose capital के लिए loan लिया तो capital assets के लिए for acquiring assets loan लिया then what will happen? And regular working capital. If it's a regular working capital, obviously it is allowed. Capital assets may you have to remember from the date of the loan, when the interest starts basically, till the date of put to use or the date of completion in otherwise. So till the date of put to use, in fact, आप ऐसे याद करो, till the date of put to use. The interest is capitalized. Capitalized मतलब वो cost में add हो जाता है. Remember, I told you when we were doing the cost of acquisition of asset for the purpose of block, I told actual cost में interest would be added. Yes. So capitalize हो जाएगा any interest from the date of loan to the date of put to use. But later on वाला interest, the later on वाला interest, friends, qualify as revenue expenditure. Qualify as revenue expenditure. ठीक है? Number 1. Number 2, you have to remember is that section 43B, यहाँ पे भी लिख लो एक बार, 43B will impact here also. So if you have taken a loan for which you are claiming revenue expenditure, which you are claiming expenditure in P&L, whether on a capital asset, post is put to use, or whether a regular working capital loan, any interest which is payable on the date of return filing to banks, NBFCs, PFIs, public financial institutions, SFCs, state financial corporations, or SIICs, in सबको, if it is payable on the due date of return filing, that would be disallowed. That would be disallowed. Again, it would be allowed in the year of payment. That is separate part we will understand, but that would be disallowed. So only the loans which are taken from these parties. Suppose I've taken a loan from a friend for business, but it is payable, it would not be disallowed. It would not be disallowed. But if the loan is taken for the business purpose, but it is taken from bank, and the interest is not paid up to the return filing period for that financial year, that interest would be disallowed. So यहाँ पे साथ साथ please write impact of 43B to be seen. A provision of 43B to be seen. Sorted? So this is all about section 9. This is not all about, this is the first few points of section 36 subsection 1. Zero coupon bonds, and then going forward your employer provident fund, NPS, all would be taken up in the next class. Okay? So your work is to do all the case laws which we discussed, the questions, and read from section 33 ABA to your 35E. 35E को ignore कर देना, 35 DDA तक. ठीक है? So thank you so much. Does anyone has any doubt before we wrap up? All sorted? Any provision में कहीं पे भी दोबारा doubt आता है, first thing you will see the lecture again with the example, and then you will ask again if it is not clear in the next class. But make sure that you do all the questions, read every line, and please feel free to ask it in the next class. So should we wrap up then? Good night and wish you all a very happy Dussehra and happy Vijayadashmi. I hope you all have a great one, and please take time for the festival, but study well. Do not overburden yourself. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Happy Dussehra, ma'am.
Thank you. Good night. Anji. Thank you.